This is RSBANDB Update, episode 629, recorded Friday, July 28th, 2017, the RuneScape Open Door Policy. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for RSBANDB Update. This week I have Sirion with me. We're kind of on the same wavelength here. We just both kind of got back from vacations. I got back from a mini vacation. You got back from a really long vacation. And
I can't believe Shane talked me into doing this podcast.
Well, I mean, it's better that we do it than have, no podcast whatsoever, right?
Oh, I suppose so. You say so.
Yeah, I do say so.
You don't know how tired I am, so you don't know what I'm going to blab out during this podcast.
Oh, well, I mean,
so.
there's no... compared to what was blabbed out last week, I think you'll be just fine.
I'm not listening to that episode, but...
that was edited, and it'll probably make its way into the clip show, believe it or not. But we'll see.
Right.
Yes. So this week we got stackable urns and new types of urns. You ever been much for urns in RS?
I've used them, definitely. I've used them a lot for cooking. I've used them for mining as well, so...
No. I really wasn't much for these updates because each urn you would want to have in your inventory would take up a spot. And that is one thing that was fixed this week. They have been made stackable. So that's good. And...
Is it, though?
I don't know. I think it's good.
So what I found interesting about the urns is it's a trade-off, right? You get more experience, but you sacrifice inventory space by using them.
Right.
That mechanic is all gone. So while there is still the cost of getting the urns, that's not that difficult. Like, you can just get the completed urns from the Grand Exchange, add runes to it, and if you don't have the level to add runes, you just use the assist system.
Right.
So that's like they're pretty cheap to get in the Grand Exchange. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, they've been around for a long time, and they got moderate crafting.
What we're just seeing is a flat increase on the experience you get by sacrificing a single inventory slot. So I feel it sort of removes the subtle trade-off that this mechanic had and makes it more boring.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I can see that. But the urns they brought out this week are for 4 new skills, including divination, farming, hunter, and rune crafting. Now, if you're, just training divination and say you're gathering energy, you're not going to really miss that extra inventory spot. Farming, you're likely not going to need it there. Hunter, most hunter items are stackable, so you're not giving up anything with that one. And rune crafting is probably the biggest one that you're going to be giving up for that extra slot of pure essence, just because we know how much GP that can bring in per run. I mean, it's also going to... the question is, if you use an urn, you can use 1 less memory in your inventory. True.
If you use, what is it? An Abyssal Lurker, I think, has the biggest inventory for, memories.
Yeah.
But still, it's 1 less memory per run. So you have slightly less XP per hour if you use it.
Margin.
I'm not entirely sure if it makes up for it.
Yeah, I don't know. And, I've always viewed urns as kind of a mid-level update, not something, or a mid-level piece of content, not something that you use at the highest end. If you're going for 120, for example, I never imagined that being the case, except maybe if you were... using the prayer urns when you were gathering, or if you're fighting abyssal demons, because that handles the ashes nicely from those. So, I mean, I always thought of urns as mid-level content. Though, on the other hand, if you're at RuneSpan, you don't really need inventory space. If you're at the Soul Altar, you don't really need inventory space. So there are some uses for these, and I think if you're out there to maximize XP, or you're out there to maximize GP in the case of rune crafting or maybe even divination, there might be some questions if you want to bring these urns along. But, I think more than anything, these urns are just here to kind of fill out the set, because the existing urns were good, but I think that these 4 skills are something that are commonly trained, but, you know, people would like a little bit of an edge on there, especially when leveling up.
So what I find interesting about all the skills that have urns are pretty much, as far as I'm aware, maybe I'm missing a few urns, but as far as I'm aware, they're mostly for gathering skills, right?
Some secondary skills, like cooking has one, for example.
Cooking, crafting. Crafting? No, not crafting.
No, not crafting. The urns are cooking, divination, farming, fishing, hunter, mining, prayer, rune crafting, smithing, and woodcutting.
Okay, not entirely then.
Yeah.
Because I felt they were generally very gathering focused, because, yeah.
No. But another thing they did is they, if you click on an unruned urn, it'll now tell you what type of urn you need. So that's good. And I mean, farming needs nature rune, divination needs the mind rune, hunter needs the mud rune. That's an interesting one, because that's a combo rune, and rune crafting requires 1 piece of pure essence, and the hunter one is the only one that requires a combo rune. So once again, putting emphasis on the mud runes and whatnot in game. So I don't know. I might use this if I'm training farming seriously ever again, in terms of going for XP, because I'll have the inventory space for it. Definitely not on herb runs. I did a little experiment with the farming urn, and 1 check of a magic tree for 13.7k XP filled up 1.5 urns.
Okay,
so they're going to fill up really quick, and each time you teleport these urns away, you get an extra 1900 XP for that. So basically, on 2 magic trees, you can fill up 3 urns, and what is that? Get an extra 5700 XP. So that might actually be worth it for farming, I think, if you're on a standard farming run.
I mean, especially because farming is very time limited, or no?
Oh yeah,
like time gated, I should say. Like even if you're up 24 hours, like you can only do so many farming runs.
Yes.
So that's a very, very it's a slow skill in terms of you have to spend a lot of time waiting offline, and the urns are a nice mechanic that allow you to make the most of the times you're actually training it. So I can see it work for that skill. But for like other skills like rune crafting, do we really need like just a flat boost on your rune crafting experience? I don't know if that was necessary.
I don't know. I mean, the Soul Altar is 350k XP per hour as it is right now. I'm not sure about what the fill rate would be on those, but if it can bring it up to 360 or maybe 370, then that might be something worth looking at. And, you know, just an aside here, this did make me kind of want to go farming again, but I am at 120 million farming XP, and I don't know if I ever want to hit 200 mil in that. But it's just a neat little aside. So I like this update. And, you know, this kind of took the place of the Aura bag, which you guys might recall got pulled back because of the feedback it received. People wanted it to be an actual bag that you could access all the auras with on the fly and not need to pull out the actual auras. So they're doing some design changes on that. So instead we got these urns. And I think the urns are a pretty good thing to have. So. All right. Anything else on urns, or should we look through the patch notes this week, which did bring some other interesting things?
Let's look at those patch notes.
Okie dokie. So the descriptions of the bonus package and sword polishing kits in Elof's reward shop and the Artisan's Workshop have been tweaked to state that they are not required for the trimmed completionist cape. You know, this is interesting because normally a piece of content in game doesn't tell you that it's required for the trimmed comp cape. So I don't know why this is here, but a bit of an interesting messaging for those going for trimmed. Though that's not me, and I don't think that's you at this point.
No, I'm already looking at some of the normal completionist requirements. I'm like, nope, that's probably never happening.
Mining urns are now filled at the correct rate when using Crystallize. I'm guessing they weren't. They were filled at a lower rate than they should have been. That's good. Shifting Tombs now allows Ironmen and hardcore Ironmen to form groups and play the content. They cannot group with non-Ironmen characters. And this is good, because when Menaphos comes out, we have Shifting Tombs, and Shifting Tombs is going to be, a hallmark of Menaphos, right? And if you can't group with people and you're playing RuneScape, it's kind of like you're missing out on a major aspect of the game here. So I'm glad that they changed this, because let's face it, Shifting Tombs was 1/3 of Menaphos, or at least was supposed to be 1/3 of the Menaphos hype, at least the way it was marketed. So,
yeah, the point is this comes a month late, basically, more than a month too late.
Yep. Almost 2 months.
I think people have moved on from Shifting Tombs. Maybe this gauged some interest along the Iron Man community, but I mean this is not going to fix anything. So it's a nice to have, but these considerations should have been made in the design phase of this update.
Agree.
And that's really all I have to say. This only shows the sloppiness of. I wish it slowed the sloppiness. No, it showed the sloppiness of Jagex in designing these and making these decisions. Even though they continuously promise to have this set of guidelines, we continue to see them having to fix this over a month after the initial release.
Yeah, and that's not good. Players can now get camouflage fragments from urns, chests, and doors in Pyramid Plunder. Of course, this is to make the Priftina's camouflage outfits. The fact Pyramid Plunder was missing, that's a big oversight, since that is one of the top ways to get to around 90 thieving before you take on Priftinus or other methods of training. So I am glad to see that this has been incorporated, because Pyramid Plunder is so iconic.
Yes, it definitely is.
Now, moving to Ashdale, and a quest that came out many years ago that some people still go visit weekly. Agaroth is now slightly weaker during the Shadow of Ashdale quest, so that he is now nicer to newer or lower-leveled players. I remember this when Shadow of Ashdale came out, and this was actually a difficult boss, kind of even for me in terms of the amount of defense the guy had. So it's good this change was made for the new.
Yeah, I mean, it's a scaled boss, and I had trouble with it. It's a pretty difficult boss, and especially for low-level quests, I was sort of surprised. So I'm glad they made this change. But yeah, sometimes I'm wondering what sort of spawns these fixes so long after the initial release.
Yeah, because that's almost forgotten content unless you go down there to do the little weekly encounter, right?
Yeah, but this is about the initial encounter in the quest. I don't think they actually changed the weekly encounter afterwards. So,
And I don't know, and even Ashdale is kind of iffy now, because you have a choice of skipping that tutorial. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right, a Cactus Patch has been added to Menaphos, northeast of the Grand Pyramid in the Imperial District. So this is absolutely amazing for Menaphos, and this actually made me excited about Menaphos when I read this. You know why?
It's the second one that's actually in the game.
Exactly. And if you have completed the hard desert task set, you will be guaranteed to get double the yield from any cactus patch in the desert, including this one. So that is really amazing for harvesting potato cactus or even cactus spines just to make money. And I have to admit it, I have not finished the hard desert tasks yet, so that might be worth something for me to do. Involves.
I finished the hard ones. The elite ones, however.
Oh yeah, let's not talk about those.
We'll not mention those ever.
That's right. And what's more is that you don't just get to use this cactus patch. You actually need to build the cactus patch. So you bring the woman there who is looking at it, 12 Acadia logs, because she says, I think we could get this built faster if we work together. So basically, you bring her the logs and she builds the outline for it. And while she's building the outline for it, you can get mining XP for mining the huge sandstone boulder that's there. And I think I got around 60 or 70k mining XP just from clearing out the sandstone boulder in the span of roughly 15 minutes. So that's a neat mechanic to it. And after you clear the sandstone boulder, you get some construction XP from actually building the farming patch itself. So I think this was a nice take on Menaphos and a nice take of integrating farming and integrating the skill into it. And it's a new kind of gameplay, I think. And maybe if we would have seen this more in Menaphos, it would have felt more engaging. I don't know.
Did you get reputation for it?
No, you do not get reputation for doing that. You do not.
I mean, I would like to see this kind of stuff more, right? The patch is significant, and the player has to work for it to get it. You get like one-time experience rewards, but you actually have to go and do stuff, maybe even get some items to get access to the long-term reward. And if we had that more, I think this whole world would be more alive. And I think we have this kind of stuff in beginners areas and a lot of free-to-play areas. You have these like short quests or like short sequence of things you have to do to get access to stuff. But as you move into like the members world and high-level player stuff, this mechanic has completely disappeared, which I think it's a bit of a shame, because for someone who likes that aspect of the game of like doing tasks and questing, this can be a huge addition, I think, to the world. Just going out, talk to people, and actually give them some depth by actually attaching some gameplay to it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Could you imagine what it would have been like if we would have had to help rebuild Prif?
Yeah, I mean, that would have been a lot of fun. Like, all of a sudden, everything was there, but it would have made much more sense if we had to assemble things ourselves, like the ovens and I don't know what. And there's a lot of potential. And don't get me wrong, don't do this for every single thing, because that gets old. But for like little farming patches like this, it can be a huge addition, because instead of having like clicking an NPC and getting like 2 boxes of generic chat, you actually get some interaction that just makes the whole NPC look less generic and more interesting.
Yeah.
This is all just world building, and I think Darius does a lot right, but in terms of like having big lore drops and not like monster drops, but like dropping lore in quests and maybe other places. Like, they do that well. They have the big line down. But in terms of like the actual world building of like the small details, I think we have lost that over the last few years.
Yeah, that
like,
makes sense.
An example of that is the examines, right?
Oh,
if you go
yeah.
to Varrock, everything has an examine. But
A
if you
unique
go
examine.
to Fifth Dinners, there's almost none. And while Fifth Dinners is sort of nice, I've always said it doesn't feel alive to me. It doesn't feel like a city. It's just it's too artificial.
Right. And I mean, you can tell that because Prifddinas is a pie, whereas Menaphos is actually a city with streets and buildings and walkways and whatnot. So
Exactly. And a lot more work went into the details of Menaphos, I think, and it wasn't perfect in that respect, but like adding these kind of things, I think makes it more interesting. There's the city quests, which arguably are similar, but weren't executed very well. So I don't know. It looks like Jagex is picking up these things again. It's a positive trend right now, but we'll have to see if we can turn the tides, given that there's a huge backlog of this stuff.
yeah, definitely. And you know, another thing with this that it does is it makes me, as a farmer, it gives me a reason to go to Menaphos every day now.
Yeah.
So, all right. Now here's another big one. 6 new hit splats have been added for players in EOC. Each choice can be selected via the miscellaneous options window in game settings. You have the choice of blue, dark blue, brown, yellow, green, or legacy, which of course will look like the legacy combat mode. You know, I could not disagree with this more, because I think combat as its own needs to be a well-defined set of tools and characteristics, and you need to know what you're seeing when you're doing combat. It doesn't make sense that you should be able to change the color of the hit splats based on your own preference for combat, because what if at some point Jagex introduces a new mechanic that relies on a different color, and you're going to have a new level of confusion appearing here. I just don't think this was a set of options that was needed.
I mean, let's just look at this from an accessibility point of view.
Okay.
We right now had like, I don't know, red and yellow, I think, and then we have purple for healing.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna add blue and dark blue, which, like, I'm not an expert on this, but that feels dangerously close to purple.
Yes.
If you're maybe slightly colorblind.
And also, don't forget, there's now a green option, and we already have a yellowish green for poison in game. So
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I get the whole customizing thing that Jagex wants to do, like make people do their own stuff, but like you are literally cutting yourself in the fingers. Like you're not only undoing part of your game design, you're making it way more difficult for yourself in the future to do this right. And the UX in RuneScape is already absolutely terrible. We've talked through this several times. And if they keep pulling tricks like this, they're going to make it more and more difficult for themselves to get to a point where the interface is actually nice to use.
Absolutely. And, you know, just putting this in as an option really says what exactly, the individual teams at Jagex are capable of, because this is something that should be left to the interface crew. And, you know, why is it that you're able to use a legacy combat splat in EOC?
You know what should have happened? Like maybe a player was like, I would like blue hit splashes, or I would like legacy hit splashes. And a developer at Jagex is like, hey, that's a cool idea. What should happen is that developer should talk to a user experience expert and be like, hey, I want to make the hit splashes different colors. And the user experience expert or UX expert should say, no, because the colors have meanings and we should keep that.
Yeah. And, I mean, the only thing that has been customizable thus far with the hit splats has been the crits, which you can, of course, purchase from Solomon's General Store.
And that is fine, because that's added on top. It just adds, like, an extra bit of, like, fluff to hitting and a critical, and I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm sad they haven't more of those packs.
I agree.
But
I agree.
Don't touch the mechanics, because those are designed deliberately. Or maybe they are not designed deliberately, and in that case we have bigger problems.
Yep, and this just adds into more of the options in the game, which we know how massive that is. But that's a topic for another day.
It's like, why do we need all this? That's like, if you were like, I challenge everybody, right? Imagine yourself being new to the game, and if you're like me, you want to look at like what kind of settings are available. So imagine yourself being new at the game, opening the game settings interface, and just look at the massive number of toggles there. It's ridiculous. It's like you won't be able to know what 90% of it does. There's toggles I don't even know what they do.
Yeah.
And
now, could you imagine if there was no interface and you had to configure them with a text file like you would do on a Unix-based operating system?
Exactly. Like, there is no need for such a large amount of customization for the players if your game is designed well. I'm just going to say it. That's like, if your game is designed well, you don't need that option. It's the same thing why in a good restaurant they don't give you salt and pepper, because your dish will be seasoned just right.
Yeah, there you go. Very good. Very good.
Bad restaurants will give you the option to season your stuff because the seasoning is bad. This is like the same thing. The default configuration is broken, and that's why they let you figure it out yourself.
I like that reference. Like, RuneScape is a game that comes out from the developers, but they want players to put their own seasoning on it. Whereas if they instead decided to, put their own spice on the UI and whatnot, we wouldn't need all the seasoning, right?
Correct. And I'm not saying you should get rid of all the customization because everybody plays the game differently. But for every single toggle, you pay a tax.
That's right.
And for every single toggle, Jagger should think about that tax and whether it's worth giving the choice to the players and whether it's a sensible choice.
I got another one for you. Imagine how all these toggles are going to play on a mobile phone.
That's like you're gonna have to scroll for like 100 of them to get to the right one.
Oh boy. Okay. There's also the option to hide other players' ability damage hit splats now as well. See, I can see this one as a sane option because if you're just wanting to see what you're doing and you're not really concerned about the damage anyone else is doing, you might want to just know that, hey, all these numbers I'm seeing are me, right? So.
Okay, I'm going to play the pessimist again, and I'm going to say the fact that you need to hide them means they're being displayed in an intrusive way right now. If they would have fixed that, you wouldn't need to hide them.
And I'm going to go back to when EOC first came out, and I'm going to say that with all the various hit splats that were appearing, when EOC first came out, I didn't know which ones were mine.
Oh, I still don't.
Because the colors are off, right? So
I still don't.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I should make mine like bright pink or something.
Well, you have the option. You have the option to do that because players can now toggle which hit plat to see for ability damage dealt in the 3 combat skills by both themselves or other players.
No, that it should be clear from the start. See, there's okay. This is sadly a podcast that's mostly watched audio, but at work we have this little image that's like a really sad person, and that says, "You see, this is a solution for a different problem than I have," which is what's happening here. Like, they're solving things that are not the actual problems.
Oh, okay, I see what you're going at.
Like,
and I can see where you would get that image in use here.
Yeah. Like they're solving the symptoms here. Like, the underlying problem is a broken interface, and I know you can't fix that overnight, but this is just patchwork.
Hence why they're in the patch notes.
No pun intended.
Well, I mean, that's what you get, I guess, right? With you and me on the show here, me, someone who doesn't necessarily outright make puns, and you who Dutch is your first language, and sometimes what would you say about you with regards to English puns?
I'm really, really good at it.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Players can now recast affinity spells such as vulnerability when they are already active to restart the timer. Okay, so I guess it's going to be up to you. Yeah, it's going to be up to you to manage the time now, and you can do that, of course, with the buff bar changes that came in. So no big deal there. Players now receive a message for successfully adding an affinity spell to an opponent. All right, that's good. Players now also receive a message for successfully binding an opponent. And, I think this is something else that is often overlooked, because you have the little bar above their HP bar that shows the binding icon, but you might not know what that means unless you mouse over it. And in combat, I know you can't do that. So this is good, providing you can manage the clutter that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's also now possible to share boss kill times in local, friends, clan chat, or guest clan chat via right-clicking the hourglass on the beast's interface. I know lots of people are going to be happy about this one, getting to showcase how quick they killed the Queen Black Dragon or a Raxor or something along the lines of that. So,
But what about group chat?
Very good point.
I mean, private chat I can see the problem with and the complications with, but group chat is a thing, right?
Yeah.
Does nobody use that?
I have it turned off.
Yeah, I mean, me too, but okay. Well, okay. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Oh
Oops,
yeah.
just
I totally see that. The melee variant of the Crystal Shield no longer gives a magic defensive bonus. I wonder how long it was doing that for.
I mean, since it came out, probably, because I think it always did. Like the original Crystal Shield always did. And they probably just converted the old Crystal Shield item to the melee variant.
Oh,
and they
yes.
never changed the bonuses.
Right, because we had lots of oddball cases like that before EOC.
Mm-hmm.
Soul Talisman Junk Chance has been adjusted to 0 in line with other talismans. All right, good to know. Soul Tiara can now be tradable on the Grand Exchange a number of weeks after the actual Soul Talisman was. Interesting how that was missed. The blacksmith within Shiloh Village has adopted a no-door policy. And it gets better. The bank door in Yataso has also been jammed open, and the Ardoyan Monastery door now defaults to opened as well.
I'll swing by with a can of oil. I'll fix it.
Yeah. Blacksmith Shiloh Village. I don't know anyone who uses that, but okay, that's good. Bank in Yataso. Okay, I guess. That's fine. And the Ardoyan Monastery door now defaults to open, not has been jammed open. So, a couple of little changes there.
Fun fact, Yataso is like almost literally in Dutch. Yes, it's so.
Yeah.
It's like that.
And, you know, I was thinking that in my mind. It means like, yes, it is so. And it's interesting to hear you say that that's actually what's happening. What about the other one? Is that no, it's not?
Nate is. It depends on how you pronounce it, but if you say Nate is not, that's literally no, it's not.
Oh, good. Interesting.
So it's like, yes, it's so, and no, it's not, which is it's a bit of a joke. I just find it funny that it seems to work like that in Dutch. I'm not sure if that's intentional. Maybe it was supposed to be German. No, it can't be because that's 9.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh well.
How do we say no? It's not in German. I don't know.
But... I don't know what.
Yeah, we're not German speakers here.
I'm not. I know some German, but
enough to be offensive, probably, right?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Next up, you can now store up to 1,000 super compost in your Leprechaun, up from 255. And you can now store up to 255 planks in your Leprechaun as well if you're a grape farmer. Okay. I think the grape one or the plank one used to be around 30. So that was a nice change. So
something about the number of bytes in an integer, or short, or byte.
Yeah, that's what people always used to assume with that, but that I guess is not the case here, right? So
the 1,000 is specific. It's
yeah, and that says.
But the 255 is just that's a byte.
Yeah, and I don't think they would have that kind of storage with that. So, but I don't know.
Back in the days, they were really like storage was a big limiting factor. Like they couldn't just have a lot of fields per player. So adding a byte per player was huge, considering the number of players we had.
Right, I guess that makes sense. All right, and now one patch note that has really disappointed me, but I guess it makes sense. The water altar has been moved to declutter the Shattered Worlds area.
Is somebody keeping track about how often the water altar has been moved? Because
no.
I think it has been moved at least like 3 times by now.
Okay. So here's the story. The water altar is in Lumbridge Swamp, and that's, of course, where Shattered Worlds turned up. And ever since Shattered Worlds came out, you could basically click on the water altar from the bank at Shattered Worlds. Yeah, and I didn't tell anyone about this. Well, I did tell people on the show, but it was a 6-second run between the bank and the water altar.
Nice. That was an oversight, I bet.
Yeah, it was, because it made making, mud runes easier, steam runes, water runes. It made making all the combo runes that involve water so much easier. So that has unfortunately been changed. It's now about a 15-second run to the bank. If you have your draw distance up, you can still see and click on the appropriate areas. But the water altar has also been rotated about 90 degrees. So you need to run from the bank and run around a pond and come into the water altar from behind, because there is a set of swamp trees and a pond in the way that prevents you from accessing the water altar directly running straight in. So as a result, that makes it about a 14 or 15-second run from the bank there. But still, I think that's pretty good, all things considered, where banking and all the other altars are. So, yeah, that was a little Easter egg, and I don't think many people knew about it. I mentioned it on the show a couple weeks back when I was making runes, but here we go. It's been changed. It was just so fast. I blew through so much essence making mud runes. It was really quite amazing here. So, but unfortunately, it's not as efficient as it was, but it still is pretty efficient compared to other options that you could take, such as actually going to the Earth altar and using the balloon network. So, anyways, let's have a look at August now, shall we?
Sounds good.
Okay, so August is here, and Mod Mark is back with another one of his videos. I know some people were getting worried about where exactly he might have been with this, but he's back. The first update of August, of course, coming this Monday, is the beach. We knew that already, so there's not too much to mention there. We'll also be getting part 2 of the achievement system, in which has the modified user interface, the rune score mechanic, and the ability to examine other players to see what kind of achievements they've completed recently. I know this is something...
If I was sarcastic, I would be like, take a bet if it actually comes out this month. Because isn't this like the third time they promise it?
Yeah, and the achievement system, I think that came out... Was that one of the last episodes that you did in your quarter, or...
Yeah, because I was really excited about it, and that probably gets the award of most disappointing update of the year.
Wow. Okay.
That's over Menopause, so there you go.
All right.
If you want to know why and what I expected of it, there's probably a couple of episodes in my quarter earlier this year where I explained the potential of the achievement system, and none of that happened. So, yeah.
We're also getting Crystal Skill Champas at the Tyrus Camp. These are going to have the level of crystal tools, and they're just like all the other skill champas in game. You need level 97 Hunter to catch them, and they're going to be also improving XP rates when you do skilling in games. So I think this could be very interesting.
Was it needed though?
I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. I think that having the skill champas is a good way to reduce reliance on, the crystal hatchet and the crystal pickaxe and whatnot. That's one thing. But
I guess that's true, but I sort of like the uniqueness of them and the requirement of having to go and spend time at the harps, right? You had to spend a lot of effort into getting it because you can't trade it.
Mm-hmm.
And now you can just buy... It's going to be expensive, but you can just buy crystal skill champas on Grand Exchange.
I mean, you're going to need
presumably. I mean, they don't confirm they're tradable. Maybe they're not. That would be really interesting. I would love it. But
you're going to need level 97 Hunter to catch them, so that's going to be pretty steep.
Yeah, but if they become tradable, there's so many people maxed right now. That's like level requirements are really not that sensible anymore on tradable items. They're gonna enter the economy anyway at a reasonable rate.
Do you think they will though? Because I mean, it's Hunter, and how many people like doing Hunter?
I know a couple.
Okay.
And especially for the first few weeks, it's probably going to be a great money-making method.
Yeah. I wonder what my hunter
After
level is.
that, like it looks like it might be best experience from 97 to 99 Hunter. There's enough people doing that.
I have level 96 hunter. I should fix that.
You could boost it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's gonna be able to. I should be able to knock out 97 hunter pretty quickly before this comes out. So
Yeah, but like like even if you use like the God
hunter
banner,
potion or something.
you can boost for like half an hour a day.
That's not too bad then. Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, you probably want to do that anyways because at level 97, you're going to feel that you're not going to be very successful with them. So, all right, I'm happy about that.
I'm just like it sort of devalues the actual crystal tools.
Yeah,
I feel.
yeah, totally. I can see where you're coming from on that. But we also need to remember that with crystal tools, you can augment those. I don't think you can augment crystal skill champas.
And that's a solid point. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you are training invention with these, or if you are going for some of the perks that make your XP better, you're still going to want to use an actual tool with an augment on it.
I mean, skill chompas also give you more experience. I think.
But you can't do invention with them, can you?
All right. I take your point.
So, I don't know. We'll have to see where they fall, but it could prove to be very interesting. They're also going to be bringing in some other little things in August, such as improved ways of earning skilling outfits in-game and timed high scores. So it'll be interesting to see how you can compete with that. And there's actually a poll in-game right now asking if the top 10 people who finish in timed high score should get the same title or if they should be differentiated in some other way. I think last time I looked, basically everyone in the top 10 was getting the title. So
No, it switched around then because I voted earlier today and it looked like only the first one would get the gold title.
Oh, okay.
It was leading pretty solidly in the poll.
Well, I mean, that's fair. And I mean, if you look at other ways of distinguishing yourself in RS, like the Wikian title, for example, if you want a rare title, you will probably go all out on this. So.
I mean, I went for the top 10 because it's so limited to do just the one. But also, I really don't care about titles.
Yeah. I tried to do the herb farming one when that was happening, and there were people that were just hitting every herb cycle in game. It was impossible to keep up with them. So, anyways, that's what's coming in the short term. But also this week, they released their unfinished business update, and that is the main reason we're recording this episode a little bit later than normal. They are updating their strategy based on the big RuneScape survey that we all filled out earlier this month. So this is the first update of their unfinished business strategy, which after Menaphos and the U-turn that was involved with that, I think we can all agree it was a massive shift, right? Massive shift in strategy.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, the response was, quote, huge and clear regarding the content that people want to see in the game over the coming year. So, fairly high up in the survey, second to only the bank rework, was the mining and smithing rework. And
I was really glad to hear that.
Yes,
I mean,
me too.
It means that the community sort of sees the need.
Yeah. And they were very surprised with one thing about it, in that people wanted to see new content added to the skills rather than to see level parity with equipment tiers, meaning that Rune would be at 50 rather than at 99 like it is right now. So this is what they say the priority of the mining and smithing rework was based on the survey results. So you'll recall some of these were questions in the survey. Number one was, I want smithing to be able to make useful combat armor. Whoa, what a surprise.
I mean, Yeah.
I was being sarcastic there because I voted for that option. Did you?
I don't entirely remember, but it was at least in my top 3.
Yeah. Also, I want mining and smithing to be profitable skills at a high level. I think that's good.
Mm-hmm.
I want smithing to bring an untradeable combat benefit for high levels, like overloads. So once again,
I think this might have been my top priority.
yes, and this is a great option to have here up near the top because it means that there's going to be a reason to have high smithing rather than just going to whatever God Wars boss you might choose and using that as your armor that you might get. You're going to need some form of smithing in order to become proficient with that drop that you get. So I'm really excited about this one. Also, number 4, I'm also really excited about this. I want the mining skill to be the best way to get ore.
Obviously.
I mean, this hands down really defines the characteristics of what this skill rework is going to be about. And I think it goes to show that, we might not hear much from the skilling community of the game, but they have spoken in this survey. And, I think there's going to need to be some drop tables adjusted. And that's going to be hard for some people to accept. But the fact it's number 4 on the list, I think, says a lot. So that's good.
I mean, we need to get something similar as the rune value improvements we saw a couple of years back.
Right.
That really did a lot for rune crafting.
I mean, just look at fire runes and the fact that any kind of rune crafting now, you have a real choice in the rune crafting skill between going for profit with the Abyss and gathering the runes, AFK with the RuneSpan, or once you complete Menaphos, you have the ability to get semi-AFK and huge XP rates with soul runes. So, choice.
I mean, rune crafting has not changed mechanically at all.
Right.
I mean, RuneSpan was added, but other than that, it has almost not changed mechanically.
And I think it's a fairly diverse skill, right?
Yeah, like, the rune value improvements really revitalized the skill. They've since added many, many more improvements, like the Abyss skilling and a couple of more things. And without overhauling the skill, they have completely brought new life to it and made it a viable skill. And that is what we need from mining and smithing as well. It might need a bit more work. And I think if you look at this list of priorities, we're on the right track.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, I think it's really easy to make priorities if the players give them to you. I mean, on the flip side, if Jagex was defining this and it didn't come out with what the players wanted, I think the players would really ask the question of Jagex, how hard is it to make priorities, right? So, I am pleased. Number 5, I want the practice of trading, mining, and smithing to feel more streamlined and reactive. I'm not exactly sure what this means.
I mean, I just want the whole game to be more streamlined and reactive, to be honest.
Okay.
Like, the game just always feels a bit laggy, a tiny bit, like, delay between every click, like, all that stuff. I just want it gone. But I'm not entirely sure how this would apply specifically to mining and smithing.
Yeah. And then all the way down at number 6, I want the level requirements of mining and smithing ores to be reduced to the level that they are for combat. So Runite can be smithed at 50 and wielded at 50. That was at number 6.
I mean, what is interesting, I think, is how this whole thing, like the whole thing is sort of contained within the top priority, which is I want smithing to be able to make use for combat armor. Like, you can't cap smithing on level 50 armor, which is what it is right now. You can't really go past that, except for some special stuff. So it's not useful for high-level players.
Yeah.
So this whole thing is sort of contained within the fact, like, I want to make use for combat armor. And I think that means moving Runite down so you can actually put useful stuff in the top tiers.
Right, because if you had Rune at level 99 and you had something else at level 99, I think that would be really confusing from a design perspective. It
would also mean nobody would ever do Rune anymore. Like, why would you do that? That's literally no good reason unless it gives much more XP, which would make no sense.
But
So.
at the same time, it's really iconic at the end of the day to have Runite ore being mined at level 85. So, and then you have the whole problem of degrading coal as well, and I don't know, and I think that's what people reacted to badly last time. So we'll have to see what Jagex's plans are when they talk more about this in the future. Number 7 was I want mining and smithing to be more fun and sociable.
This is a hard one as well, because in a way I wanted this, but on the other hand, mining is already as sociable as you make it, right? I spent many hours in the lava flow mine, in the lava flow mine world. You can make it sociable. There's plenty of people around.
You could even make
start
Sarah
a conversation,
Stone
people
sociable.
will respond.
You could even make Sarah Stone sociable as well.
You can make 7 stones, like same thing. Like there's people around usually. Just start a conversation and they will talk. So I don't see the necessary need to make it sociable. Smithing is a bit more complicated, I guess, because like there's much more clicking involved maybe, and you have to run back and forth, which doesn't make for good conversations. But still, like, the entirety of all scaling is as sociable as you make it. So I wasn't entirely sure what they mean with this. Like, more fun. How would you make a skill more fun? I don't want to have mining be turned into some sort of mini game where I have to do stuff.
Fun will now commence.
I guess that's the reason why it's down there.
Move to mining station A. Yay.
Yeah.
And lastly, the Artisan's Workshop. I want the Artisan's Workshop to remain a good training method after a smithing rework. So could that mean lowering the levels of the Artisan Workshop if Rune is also lowered? And have it be a mid-level piece of content? Or even free to play?
See, I didn't get this point. Like, isn't rethinking the training method as Artisan Workshop part of this rework anyway? Like,
yeah,
it's currently if it was no longer a good training method after the smithing rework, it would become dead content. So it's
and you
wrong
can't have that.
to make it like. This is why is it on this list? That's my question. Like, the Artisan's Workshop should be considered or killed.
Yeah, I agree with that. And they end this off by saying that their designers have put together a plan to address the results of the survey, which they're reviewing right now, and they'll be ready to share that with us soon. So it looks like we're on the right track here for one of the very large pieces of content that everyone wants. The Clue Scroll Overhaul also is getting some attention here. They say Clue Scrolls are iconic RuneScape content, and they attracted an according level of attention in the survey. Top of your wish list was multiple active Clue Scrolls and hidey holes to hold the gear that you need. Okay.
So to be honest, if you had some sort of hidey hole, or if the emote Clue Scrolls would just not be such a pain to do, I would start doing hard Clue Scrolls again, and maybe even medium ones.
I agree with that.
I leave the hard ones in my bank because I can't be bothered changing out of my gear into something else.
Yeah, and we were actually just talking about that in the Friends chat the other day. The fact that, the best reason to do Elite Clue Scrolls is you can just go and do them. You don't need to open up, a coordinate mapper if you don't know where all the coordinates are. You don't need to go to your bank to pull out armor and whatnot. You don't need to fumble through the emotes menu and whatnot as well. So.
Yeah, like in Elite Clue Scroll, like the scanned clues are terrible, but all in all, it's probably in terms of like doing them.
But at least with the scan clues now, you just pop it open and run around, right?
Yeah.
And they removed the Chaos Tunnels one as well a few weeks ago.
And they removed, So, I don't know.
It's interesting that they say it attracted an according level of attention in the survey. They're in an R&D phase with this about prototyping various aspects of it, including a new footprint system, which is a cosmetic reward type first mentioned way back at last year's RuneFest. So,
I forgot.
Yeah.
What was footprints?
I don't know.
Okay, didn't have much impact on us. So
Invention Batch 2 was going to be a part of the next expansion, and they're going to be able to use the work that they've already done on that piece of content to bring it to us, quote, soon, so probably by the end of the year. And they've also been taking the time to fix up big issues with the skill, and in the next 2 weeks there's going to be another Invention Dev Diary video with an update on all the changes that have been made based on feedback.
do you think they'll kill tech trees?
You know, tech trees are so bland right now that I can see that happening, but at the same time I don't think you can have something called invention without tech trees. So
We had it for like a year.
I know, but
And then we got 2 tech trees and never got the follow up.
maybe
I want my gnome stuff.
yeah, or elf.
I want my gnome stuff.
Yeah.
I like my gnomes.
What if the gnome tech tree was as a result of taking the gnome, finishing the gnome quest line and taking that into 6th Age?
Shut up and take my money.
Interestingly enough, there wasn't too much on this posting about quests, so we'll have to wait and see what.
There is some.
Where?
Right down there. It says so in the header.
Oh,
Evil Dave quest.
Dave quest. Okay, just one. Evil Dave is coming along nicely. Okay. Polish and internal feedback to go through, so it's not time to join Dave on his adventure big yet. Okay. So that's going to be further to the end of the year, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Dailyscape Reductions, design options for this that they're going to be sharing soon. And active development is also slated to commence. And I think they need to be a little bit more clear on this. What exactly does it mean by Dailyscape Reduction?
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't even know.
Like, does this mean making things weekly instead of daily, making it so you can do more of them in a shorter time? I don't know. But
I mean, if this is to address my problem with the game, which means you're sort of forced to log in every day to like get your treasure hunter keys, to like do your dailies, when those things are going on where you have to collect 1,000 things per day to get like these aesthetic rewards, like this, all this stuff that sort of penalizes you for not logging in every day. If they're going to reduce that, I'm going to be happy, because I'm running into a situation where I sometimes cannot log in for a day, and I would really like that if I log in the next day, I can sort of catch up. Like, it's the thing they did with supplies in the Ark, right? It's like, it stacks up.
oh, okay.
Maybe they will do
something
the
like that.
same. Like, I'm speculating here, but maybe they will do the same for treasure hunter keys, say. Maybe you can save up like 5.
That would be interesting.
I'd like that.
Yeah. Also, the bank rework was one of the most popular options in the survey. 23% deemed it to be an important update, while 46% said it was very important. And they say it makes sense, and it's easy to see why, because RuneScape is an inventory-heavy game. So
That's why you need an interaction designer.
That's right. Once the team's time is available to do some further essential groundwork, we'll continue with this project as a high priority. So this sounds like it's in a pause state right now.
I mean, that's why we saw, like they explained, that's why we saw less Ninja updates, because most of the Ninja team was already working on this. They're probably de-spaghettifying it right now, but
yeah, that would make sense given how old the bank is and how intertwined it is within everything.
It's going to be interesting to see what they come up with. Like, I want to be excited for it, and I want to be able to tell everybody it's going to solve all our problems. But the truth is, after the achievement system, I am very, very skeptical.
Yeah, we got to hold our breath and wait for the beta.
Like, if there is a beta.
Yeah.
But,
I think they said there was going to be at the last unfinished business post. So
okay, yeah. But yeah, like if this goes wrong, that might be another huge hit to the game, because it's so central. I think the bank system any achievement system together sort of have to carry the entire game.
Interesting thought. As in,
Because
they can be used as ways to propel you into the game further, right?
yeah, because the bank sort of ties into your inventory and like the rest of the UI a lot. But in general, the bank is like your main interface about your stuff, while the achievement system is about your progress.
And what you can do if you're looking for something to do in game.
Exactly. And without those two pillars, it will be very hard to progress. So
interesting.
No pressure, Jagex.
Yeah, all right. Graphical reworks. The update on this, they've been reworking the Witch's House, which we saw a bit of a prototype of earlier in the first Unfinished Business post. And quality of life changes will make this area available to free-to-play, the Witch's House. Also, Sears Village and Camelot graphical reworks are in progress by the Ninja team, but are a secondary project compared to more pressing fixes and tweaks. So, all right. I think we last saw these as being white boxed. At this point, I think prioritizing the mechanical stuff in game, I would put at a higher priority than graphical reworks. Because, the game looks good enough as it is right now, unless you go to some far-flung area of, like, Yanil, right?
I have to admit that I agree to you, but I really, really like graphical rework, so I'm having a hard time admitting to it.
Yeah. And, also with graphical reworks, I don't really like it when they change the layout of the places. It just doesn't feel right because I've known the layout of all these cities for so long that changing them just feels odd. Like Catherby,
I don't know.
Example.
This again comes with the world building part, right? I feel it. Like, so far, they haven't failed to make an area look more interesting.
That's true. Just look at the wilderness.
Back in the day, we had like a few tile sets, but Falador had its own, had its own character with white walls for a while, but in a way, Varrock and Ardoin were indistinguishable in graphic style.
Very true.
The walls looked the same, the ground looked the same, like everything looked the same. And now they can bring so much more character to a place. It makes my gaming experience more enjoyable as somebody who enjoys exploring the world.
All right.
So it makes it look nicer and take out the power of NXT, which is important. But also it gives the world much more character, and I think that's also an important part of the game.
Okay, combat skilling pets. They're going to start... What was that?
Nothing. That was just my response to combat skilling.
Constitution modeling of that pet will start soon, next week, and artists have begun working on bringing the winning concepts in line with the house art style. So that is progressing. And it's pets, so not too much. Now, here's a big one that I think lots of people are going to be excited about. Shattered Worlds. Obviously they told us that we want Shattered Worlds to be more rewarding and more varied. So in an update, quote, coming soon, they're going to be upping anima gain rates, and once they're done with Invention, the Eternals who's working on that will be dedicating time to Shattered Worlds, finding ways to make it feel, quote, less samey, and introducing fiendish new ways to test your combat chops.
So it looks like they sort of permanently committed to making it a very combat-heavy activity.
Yeah.
Which makes me sad.
Yeah, it really does, because it could have been a great way of combining everything all together. Though,
basically make it... Okay, I'm going to make it sound boring maybe, but just look at it as a dungeoneering dungeon, which is entirely linear, but more difficult.
Yep.
And less combat focused.
And I think we talked about it in that way on the show when it was released. Whoever was on that episode, I don't recall.
And then make it possible to actually raise someone.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
Have two tracks next to each other. Have it be done in groups.
Ooh.
have it be done in groups so you can do fun events in clans.
And
See,
you can
give
see
me
the
2
progress.
minutes and I come
You
up
can
with
see
good
you can see the
ideas for
progress
the-
of both of them along the way, and you can have some kind of clan announcer who is tracing the progress of it, and you got almost like one of those game shows like American Ninja Warrior or something like that, except
You
in
get
RuneScape.
very, very live streamable events, yes.
Nice.
It could almost become esports, but given the take rate in RuneScape, I don't see that happening.
Oh,
anytime soon.
did you hear all the stuff about RuneScape 4 and how they thought that was going to be the quote the announcement removal of the tick rate?
Only I haven't really been following because of my vacation, but yeah.
All right. And also, they say on next week's live stream on Tuesday, August 1st, they're going to be answering questions about these projects. And then mid-month, there will be another unfinished blog in mid-September. So another month and a bit to go. Or maybe they mean mid-August.
That's very interesting. Why can't I talk? That's very interestingly timed just before RuneFest.
Oh.
Because RuneFest is September 23, I think.
Yes.
So
neat.
that's like, yeah.
Very, very neat. All right. Well then, unfinished business. I don't know. After reading this post and some of the things that have been going on over the last few weeks, I just feel like I have a large mass lifted off my chest here in terms of, that, okay, we're going to start focusing on the right things and updates are going to progress the way we've come to expect them to, and we don't need to be waiting every so often for expansion updates and whatnot. So I don't know. I'm happy with how this looks. Are you?
I mean, not all the updates listed I find interesting. Like some of the updates I couldn't care less about, like combat pets. I just don't care, right? But I guess that's to be expected. You can't like every single update, and they're addressing some big pain points in the game. They're committing to mining and smithing rework. They're committing to the bank rework, and those things, they might not be the most broken things of the game, but they are broken. So,
yep. I agree. 100% agree.
They are probably they are focusing on things that actually matter right now instead of just churning out new content all the time. That, to be honest, the updates of the last maybe even year or so have felt very samey, don't you think? Like,
yes.
What's the last really revolutionary thing that was released to RuneScape? I don't even remember anymore. I mean, Shattered Worlds was supposed to be a thing, but
yeah.
Was it really something new? Was there really something new about Menethos?
Wilderness rework?
Well, that's a long while ago.
I mean, it says a lot. That
I think I've made my point, so I'm just gonna move on. But like,
yeah,
like the last, I don't know how long. Like the arc was pretty new. I'm gonna give them that.
Yes,
the arc was maybe not perfect, but it was new.
And I was thinking that I can say the arc here, but that didn't really have staying power. So
maybe not, but like.
Oh, I got it. It was this year. Guthix Memorial back in January.
Okay. That was new.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll admit that. But still, like, back in the day, every month we would have something, almost every month we would have something exciting new. I mean, you're on a podcast. You discuss every single update. So...
And the fact I can't remember what one is kind of says a lot.
Yeah, and also the fact that, like, I think you can testify that when I say that maybe 2 years back or so, every month there would at least be one really exciting episode talking about something cool that was added. And that hasn't happened. Like, things have become a bit samey, and I think it is about time that they changed gears and started doing new things again. I feel they sort of felt in this. I don't know how to describe it, but like they got a few things that worked, and instead of accepting that and moving on, they kept repeating it. They kept taking it. They kept duplicating it, and so much has lost its newness value.
It's kind of like what happened to the Star Trek series after Enterprise.
You could see that. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that this is malice or like very high incompetence.
It just needs a fresh image to it, because from 1987 to 2005, there was always fresh Star Trek on TV. But by the time Enterprise hit in 2005 and it ended, it was the same creative direction, and people were getting tired of doing that. So it needed a fresh reboot. And in some ways, that's kind of like a midlife crisis for Star Trek, and same thing for RuneScape. It just kind of needs a direction shift. Though I will say that last year's quests, Children of Ma, Kindred Spirits, the vampire ones, were all really top-end content last year.
They were good, but like the further you got into the quests, things started sort of repeating themselves, I felt. Like the puzzles were maybe slightly different, but not really. Like they sort of shared like a common ground. It's so hard to describe, but like,
yeah.
At some point, you had to rely on the lore being big in a quest for it to become big, and
very true.
That's just like, and I feel that's sort of something they have to get out of, and they don't have to do it by tackling all the content, but I think it's a great way to get out of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because so much is already done in the game. But like, there's such a solid basis there that can be improved upon. So I think it's the right choice, and it's the best path forward.
Yep.
I can't quite articulate it correctly, but that's sort of what I feel about the unfinished business. It's hopefully gonna be a whole fresh rush, like, into the game, like with a different angle, a different viewing point. Like, the people are the same, but they'll look at it from a different side, which will hopefully bring a lot of freshness to the game, which might sort of motivate me to play again, play more again, because I find myself playing less and less because there's not much new to the game.
Right.
And I've seen most of it, to be honest.
Yeah. And I mean, you could go back to 2006, and I remember doing the podcast in 2006. Every week would be something new. Every week would be something new, a new update to discuss. And we wouldn't know what it was because there were no real behind-the-scenes posts back then. There were no live streams. We would be at our wits, and we would head out into the game and discover this content, and it would be fresh and new, and it was something that made this podcast, and it was something that gave us lots to talk about, and it would be nice to get back to that, I think. And
I mean, I don't think we ever will, because
they needed to do it that way for their promotional stuff.
Yeah, but like, it's also that as the game moves on to a more mature state, as the bar for graphics has been raised in like the gaming world. Like, you need to look pretty to get your players attached to your game.
Yeah.
They have to spend so much more on every single update. It's like, it's unfeasible to have a big new thing every week. They can't do that anymore, because while back in the day, adding a new NPC was pretty simple, because like they all had the same model. You just slap some different colors on it and maybe some different hair and details. That's it. And now they need to design a whole new character and a new model, basically.
Yeah, that's fair.
So we will never get back to that, I think, is, to be honest. But we can at least go back to making most updates at least exciting and new, and not like, oh gosh, another one of those.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head, and that's what needs to happen. So,
and some of these updates, like the combat paths, are doing the same thing that already existed. That's why I don't care for them. But big things like the reworks, that's something new if they do it right. And that's what I'm excited about. And that's what needs to happen, because if those fail, people are going to start moving away because they want new stuff.
yeah.
And that's how hard the game world is. If people get bored with your game, they leave because there's enough other things to do.
Okay, well, I think we have established where we need to go in the future, and it's going to be interesting. And like you said, we can't get back to where we were, but hey, it's a good step in the right direction. So, all right, discussion question time this week from Pernasius via audio. Here we go.
Hey guys, Pernasius here with a quick question this week on the Menafos Journal. Do you think that Jagex missed the mark with the 3 collection offers in the cats, the jewels, and the insects? Rather than just offering a cosmetic and 2,500 rep points, do you think they could have made it more rewarding by offering an increase in rep gained at normal skilling by 10% for 1 collection completed, 25 for 2, and 50% if you complete all 3? This would be just for normal skilling in the area, not for the souls and scarabs that appear, nor for the city quests. It's my belief that they could have instilled a more positive feeling for these events if they offered the players a real reason for doing them. Thanks for taking the time for answering my question, and may your RuneScape games be plentiful.
So this is much like the Arc Journal, where you just collect the various little things around the Arc, and you don't get too much from it. And Menafos. Again.
How I'd love to have a little discussion about this at Pernasius right now. See, I think it is not a bad thing that there's no reward attached to collecting these things.
Interesting. Why is that?
Well, do you not agree, or do you think there should be something attached to it?
See, the way I see it is that these bugs and whatnot in the journal, the cats and the gems, they just came out, and it's just like a consolation prize. Whereas if you are into Slayer and combat, you can build your own Slayer dungeon. You can fight the Magister. And we, in turn, get to collect gems, cats, and bugs for it.
You don't have to. And that's the whole nice point of it. Like, if you would attach like a reward to it, like 50% more reputation gain, say, that's a lot, by the way. That's a whole lot. But let's say you get some type of more reputation from it.
Yeah, I agree.
You don't
50%
have to do
would
it,
probably be too much.
but you sort of do, right?
Right. I see where you're going. So it would make it from something that's optional to something that you would feel that you absolutely need to do then.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, it would make the city feel more grindy?
No, not necessarily. Like maybe yes. Like it would make it feel like that, and you have to do more stuff, and that's never nice. But isn't it nice to have a bit of content that you can completely ignore without feeling bad about it?
I agree with that.
You can choose to do it. You can choose not to do it. And I think there's people who have this completionist attitude that will do it without reward. I know those people. If there was a reward to it, people would start doing it for the reward and not for the actual thing.
That's a very good point.
The entire philosophy, the entire attitude we want to kill in RuneScape.
Yeah. And, for me, that's quests. I would do quests happily without rewards. But lots of people just do it for the rewards.
The rewards are great, and I love finding out what the rewards are after quests. They're part of the experience. Would they not I would still do the quests. I would spend that time just going through it and figuring out what's going on. I would get the quest cape. If there was no quest cape, I would still get it.
Yeah.
And this is sort of the same thing. Like,
I think it's a fundamental.
I completely get where this attitude is coming from, right? You want to reward the player, but seeing that, like, for people that are really completionist, right, that have that attitude, I'm not. I'm too impatient for that. But for those people, I imagine just seeing the page completely filled is the reward on its own.
I agree, and it comes down to a fundamental philosophy difference of the way the game goes, whether or not everything needs to have a reward to it. But at the same time, I just feel like the skillers in Menaphos, the high level skillers in Menaphos, were left out, and maybe that's okay. But until today or this week, I had no reason to go back to the city until that farming patch appeared. So,
I mean, I completely agree with the sentiment, right? I feel the same. You get like the cat the cat searching in Menaphos. You get it, and you're like, what's up with that? I don't get anything from it, and why did they spend effort on that? But I think there are people who like that piece of content and just do it for the sake of it, and
that's good.
The fact that maybe we feel left out in our from like a skiller or a quester or whatever standpoint doesn't mean we should start taking away things from other groups of players. I feel. I mean, this is my interpretation, and I'm not going to say that I like the exact stuff they're doing there, and having so many different kinds of you can collect maybe a bit overkill, and it's probably also partly done because it's so easy to just add another page with a lot of stuff, and like the amount of time needed to develop this is low. But I don't think that we should go into this habit of just slapping on rewards to everything.
All right, that's fair enough. Based on what you said, I think 50% extra reputation would have been too much, and I don't know if there would have needed to been a reputation reward behind it, but I think it would have been nice if there was something tangible that you could get from completing that journal, to a point where it doesn't have to be huge, that people will just do it for the reward, but just so that there's something, I don't know what it could be.
I agree. I mean, this is really difficult, right? Where do you strike that balance?
Right.
I don't have the answer to that. I think that's really hard and might need some experimentation. But yeah, it would be nice if you get something from it, even if it's just cosmetic, right?
There you go, and that would be fine, I think.
And I do agree. I think there should be ways in a game where you can increase your reputation gain by doing something extra, like helping out locals, making a new farming patch. That's like,
yeah, there should have been
building
reputation from that.
with locals.
Yep.
Like what you're doing there is literally a definition of what you're supposed to do. So that's the kind of stuff that they should add. That should give reputation gains, I think.
Yep.
But like this precise link, like these two things, linking those together, I think is not the right solution here. I think, yes, we need a solution for this, like for having a reward for this, collecting this stuff. Maybe, I don't know. I would have to talk to somebody who is really a completionist about how they experienced it. We both can't, because I don't think
that's not
either
us.
of us
No, we're
has
not
the
completionists.
And I think there should be a way to get more reputation gain by doing something, which
other than soul obelisks,
or like, I mean, there should be a way to get like a long-term reputation reward. I think like a 5% increase or something.
Yeah,
based on like doing stuff.
I agree.
I don't know how it should be integrated, but I agree something like that would be nice, and it would be great if it integrated with actually doing stuff for the local populace.
Yeah, those questions are above our pay grade. But if you want to send questions in for next week, update.rsbnb.com/ask 571-57BNB 571-572-2632, or leave a DM on Twitter at RSBANDB. Thank you, Pernasius. I think we all have some kind of agreement on Pernasius's discussion topic here. We just have different ways of going about the rewards to it and how how much of a magnitude of impact they should have. So
I think that's a reasonable conclusion.
yeah. All right, so tech news. Microsoft caused some feathers to ruffle up this week. They announced that in the fall creators update, MS Paint was going to be gone. And you saw websites like BuzzFeed and Vice saying that MS Paint is dead, MS Paint is gone forever. But this further forced Microsoft to clarify that MS Paint is actually being removed from the fall creators update of Windows 10, but you're still going to be able to pick up MS Paint from the Windows Store where it will be available as a free app. So,
will they continue to support it, or will you just be able to get the last version?
That's a good question. I think it's just going to be the last version because the emphasis on this story from Microsoft is that they want you to use Paint 3D, which of course allows you to...
what is that?
I don't know. I have it. I never really looked at it.
I have it, yeah. What does it... Oh my gosh, this looks complicated.
Yeah, it basically lets you create a 3D scene that I think is capable of being viewed in VR if you have the ability. I mean, there's 3D doodles and whatnot and ink in Paint 3D, but I don't know.
This is not Paint, though.
Exactly. And that's why everyone got upset about this, is because Paint has been in Windows for 32 years, since the 1980s. Windows 1.0. So, of course, I mean, who hasn't used Windows Paint? I remember, sometimes just if there was, maybe 10 minutes left in a class or something, going on to MS Paint and just doodling for a bit, right? In school.
Oh, I never did that, I think, but...
Really?
No, I was a nice kid.
Okay. I mean, I should clarify. This is not, of course, undertaking computer science classes. This was undertaking classes that involved learning how to use Microsoft Word after I'd finished my assignments.
Okay. I just made this in Paint 3D. I'm not sure if I'm proud of it.
Let's see what you did here. Oh. Okay. Let me see if I can pull this over for those watching the YouTube version of this. Sirion just made a starred face.
I don't even know why. I mean... Oh, okay. I mean, it's a sweet app, and this, you could have some fun with this. Maybe if you had like a drawing tablet, but this is not a Paint replacement,
right?
Like, no.
And I mean, MS Paint on its own is very rudimentary, and it has horrible JPEG compression if you don't use PNG or bitmap. And because of that, I think if you want anything real to be done on Windows that would be like Paint, except you want a bit more, Paint.net is the app you want to get. But nonetheless, I mean, I think it's more of a nostalgia thing as to why people want it back. So, and I mean, why don't they just keep it on the system? Like, it's not that large.
I think it's a matter of, as long as you keep it on the system image, you have to keep supporting it. I think they want to actually drop support. That would make sense. And you can't drop support if you include it in the system image, basically.
All right.
That's my guess. I don't know. I mean, what I liked about Paint is it's really simple. It works really well for simple stuff. Like, if you take a screenshot, it gets copied to your clipboard. Nowadays, you can just paste it on Imgur or something. But back in the day, you had to save it and upload it like the old-fashioned way. And Paint, like, everybody could use Paint. You just paste it in there and save it as an image. And I've also been on... I've tried doing this on a Mac, right? And Mac screenshots work slightly different. But let's say you copy something and want to paste it into an image and do some simple edits, like adding an arrow or something.
We don't have an app for that on Mac by
There's
default.
not a simple app for that.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, I'll try using GIMP. Well, good luck. I still can't use GIMP. after all those years.
Sketch is what you want to get if you're on the Mac and you're looking for something
Sketch
simple.
works really good, but back in the day, right? These there's no simple app, and Paint did that really well. And at some point, Paint.net filled that gap really nicely because it did slightly more, but in a way that was still very easy to understand. I don't know. I feel there's enough replacements in the market now that it's not needed anymore. So I get
it's a
move.
nostalgia trip, really. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So, all right. Not sure if anyone heard about that, but I got a kick out of that story.
I'm just wondering what people like in a couple of years. This means people won't know what MS Paint skills are anymore.
That's right.
That's right. You get this whole I don't know, competitions or.
Do you remember? Do you remember back in the day they had a competition on the actual RuneScape website of someone who could create the best RuneScape comic in MS Paint?
Wow. I mean, look at memes, right? Like all of those things. Like I think the whole meme around memes is that they're created in MS Paint because they look like that.
Yep. Yeah.
So like in a couple of years, people won't get that anymore. So I guess you're right. It's a nostalgia thing, but
hey, but then we're gonna have our 3D memes with Paint 3D,
with like stars with shades on. I'm looking forward to that already. That star is gonna be the new meme. I tell you.
Clan Quest meme. You could set that as the new Clan Quest Discord image.
I should do that. Maybe for April 1st. Don't tell anybody I said that. Yeah. Wait.
You could do it right now. I hate the logo I made for that.
Yeah, no. It's staying. I'm sorry.
All right. Now something else that people have been long wanting to die, Adobe Flash. Adobe is going to stop updating Flash in 2020. Adobe announced that these Flash plugins that have populated our browsers for years, allowed us to play games, watch viral videos before YouTube was a thing, is going to stop in 2020. So Adobe will continue to partner with Apple, Mozilla, and Microsoft to offer security updates for Flash in their browsers and support new versions of them. But beyond that, Adobe will not offer any new Flash features. So this is a clear signal to the market that it's time to move on towards other solutions that do not involve Flash for playing videos and building interactive websites. So obviously this means a huge new focus on HTML5, but the market has already been headed that direction. And, I think everyone remembers that when the first version of iOS came out and when the first iPad came out even more so, specifically the iPad, people were really concerned that Apple and iOS wasn't supporting Flash, and so much so that Steve Jobs even wrote a ranty letter in 2010 entitled Thoughts on Flash, in which he highlighted the exact problems with Flash. And here we are almost 10 years later, we're seeing that Flash is finally going to be going the way of the dodo. So, looks like Apple was right on this.
I mean, a lot of people are sort of cheering about Flash disappearing, and I'm not going to say that I'm sad about to see it go, because it had its problems.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
In many different ways, and especially in the current world where so much is focused around portability, things like battery performance becoming really important, security becoming really important. Flash, there's no place for Flash anymore, basically.
Yeah. I've actually been a bit preemptive and disabled it in all the web browsers I use.
I think I have it maybe set to only run when I give explicit permission or something. I don't even know anymore. I don't really care. But what I wanted to say is, like, a lot of people are sort of happy that Flash is going, and there's like this whole cheer, like collective cheer on the internet. But I think I read an article about this, and I think it's important to sort of acknowledge how important Flash has been to the development of like interactive websites.
Oh, and, most definitely.
Like, Flash was the first option to really make things on websites like shiny, moving, and all that stuff.
I made some of those back in
Like before Flash,
whenever.
that was not possible. Like JavaScript was simple.
Do you remember the stab at DHTML, dynamic HTML, to animate HTML without using Flash? Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
No, it was a Microsoft initiative, DHTML.
But yeah, like Flash was so important, and I don't know if it's still a thing, but I have spent so many hours of my young years' life spent playing Flash games on the internet. Right?
Yes. And
like you would get to school early so you could go behind one of the computers and play Flash games. Like that was literally a thing at my primary school. So like it was so important, and when Flash goes, like those games are becoming a lot less accessible, I guess. But yeah, like it was really important in development, and its place has now been taken by HTML5, JavaScript, WebGL, all that stuff. But I think we should like sort of remember it as being a really important milestone in development of the internet.
And
not just because of the bad things.
I definitely agree with that. And, there's going to be lots of people who are going to want to, have these nostalgic games out there. And, for the time being, you will be able to access them because Adobe just said they're not adding any new features to it, but they're going to be continuing to update security. So
for example, one of the probably the biggest website with like Flash games is Newgrounds, and they're actually working on a long-term plan of keeping the games alive, and they're actually considering creating a HTML5 JavaScript solution that can still interpret SWF files, which is Flash files.
Yeah, they would
just still play
that would be a good
browser.
thing. That would be great. And, of course, there's also the development side. There were tons and tons of developers who would develop in Flash with ActionScript, which was Adobe's modified version of JavaScript. Those guys have already probably moved to natural JavaScript by now. But, there's definitely lots more than just, using it on websites and whatnot. So
one of the biggest game jams, for example, is Ludum Dare, which every time people are still making games in Flash a lot. So, like, it's not dead yet, but there's still things being made in Flash.
Yeah. Adobe Air, remember that?
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
That was a way of making combined web and Flash apps and putting them in an app container, cross-platform. So, you can't underestimate what Adobe did, but we're definitely moving away from it, and the browser is the reason for it, because you can do so much now in Chrome and Edge and Safari and Firefox that Flash is just falling to a secondary choice for many people. So, but it will be nice to have more finely controlled videos and Flash websites on the internet that are now 100% HTML5 based, and you don't need to worry about plugins and whatnot. So that'll be nice when we can get there eventually. So, I never thought we'd get to this day when we'd be talking about this, but hey, here we are. So, let's also talk about other things going away. Apple officially killed the iPod Nano and iPod Shuffle this week, meaning the only iPod that Apple now sells is an iPod Touch, which, of course, is basically an iPhone without the cellular service. We already saw the iPod Classic disappear, and we saw, the writing was kind of on the wall because Nano and Shuffle hadn't been updated in years, and the question is, why would you buy one of these when you can get an iPod Touch or even just use your phone as a dedicated MP3 player? So, not surprising, but it's the last of an era.
I think it makes sense. I think there's very few people who would need a dedicated MP3 player by now. Everybody has a smartphone, pretty much.
I think the number one users of nanos and whatnot at this point probably would have been children who weren't ready for a smartphone yet.
But even that age is sort of decreasing, I think. People are
think?
getting phones earlier and earlier, and the platforms are playing to that, like creating special children environments and such. And like even that, like I feel that is going to become more and more fuzzy as well. So, I mean, one use case I thought of was, for example, if you go out running, for example, you see a lot of people, like the iPod Nano was something you could put on your arm with like a band.
Right.
But even that is moving towards just putting your phone on a band on your arm, I feel. Or you could even put it away entirely and use Bluetooth headphones and have like a watch, one of the smartwatches, to control your music. So, like all the things that the iPods had going for them are moving away. The only thing I feel sort of is maybe a bit of a regression is that I usually have this issue is that storage space on phones is very, very limited. And
bingo.
Especially the iPhone Classic. Like you could get an iPod Touch back in the day, say 8 gigabytes. And for the same price, you could get an iPod Classic with like, what was it, 120? Maybe even 240.
160. They were 160 and 320 at their peak.
For the same price, that's a lot more music you're carrying around all of a sudden, or a lot better music, I guess. Yeah. Well, 8 gigabytes wasn't a lot. So, like, phones don't have a lot of storage still, and the price for more storage on your phone is high if you look at, like, the difference in iPhone prices, for example, when the storage goes up. That's a very steep price. So,
hey, but if you have a good data plan, you can just stream the music.
That is true. I guess that is also part of this, that more and more people, like data is getting cheaper and cheaper over time, I feel. So, I don't know.
And also modern compression, you can get a song down to under 3 megabytes and make it sound still good. So, yeah, there's lots of things that have contributed to this. The modern iPod Touches also got a storage bump. They now come with 32 and 128 gigs of storage, 32 for $199 US and 128 for $299 US.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're taking music with you and this is going to be a music device solely, just think of how many songs you could fit on there. I mean, sure, you're going to have the music aficionados who are going to want to bring their entire library with them. Those are the people who would have had an iPod Classic back in the day. But, I mean, with 32 gigs, I think you could probably get a good chunk of your library on there, right?
I'd say so. I don't have the library on my current hard disk. I have it on my external, so I can't check for you. But, yeah. And the point is, like, it's so easy to hot swap in and out, right? I use Google Play Music, for example. I can just download an album when I want to listen to it, and I just remove it again when I'm not interested. And when I'm at home, I stream anyway. So if you're sort of smart about it, you just prepare for the next couple of days because, like, downloading is pretty fast anyway.
Yeah. And you know what's also telling is that the iPod menu a while back was removed from the Apple website and it was just replaced with the Apple Music menu. So
that makes sense. Yeah.
Oh, I remember back in the day when people were getting iPods and they were a newly fangled thing. Wow. How? Okay. Let's
a bit of a nostalgia trip here.
It really is, this tech news, isn't it? It's kind of interesting how it worked out this way. So, alrighty. Oh, it looks like the iPod Touches have the same internals as the iPhone 5S, the A8 chip.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm interested about this now.
Do they still look the same? Because I have an iPod 3, I think. That was ages ago. iPod Touch 3.
I think they thinned them out. I think they thinned them out a bit. Yeah, they would have thinned them out. Let's see. A8. No, it's not the A8. I don't know, but
like the new. Is the 6 the newest?
What?
Okay.
iPhone
They
7
now
is
look.
the newest.
No, iPod Touch.
Ah.
They now look a bit more like the casing looks a lot like the new iPhone 7.
Yeah. And they made them thinner, but
They look
anyways.
pretty good, actually.
Yeah, they are. And I mean, like I said, if you want to give someone a device that doesn't have cellular, this is what you get them. So,
Yeah, that makes sense.
and there's lots of colors too. All right. Well, let's move on to other things. We got our July Skill of the Month update, the Magic Skill of the Month, and it looks like we could have a bit of a lead change here. Parnasius is still in first place with 12.8 million XP gained with roughly 3 or 4 days left in the month. Second place is X-Blades with just over 12 million XP gained. X-Blades could definitely catch Parnasius. And in third place, we have Flash with 2.3 million XP gained. So it should be interesting to see what is happening there. And if you're interested in signing up for a Skill of the Month, the Skill of the Month for August is Invention, if anyone wants to train that. I don't know what kind of uptake we'll have on that, but if you want to sign up, rsbnb.com/skotm. You doing any Invention training this month?
Well, probably, but I don't want to embarrass myself with how little I actually will do. So,
All right, fair enough. So
compared to like the experience gains of some of the people in these competitions,
and
like
when you look at these competitions, they're tough, eh?
Yeah. Like I'm a very casual player these days. I'm like just hanging about, maybe getting some experience every now and then. So I don't think these competitions are for me.
Okay. Well, we do have some achievements. I'll snag the first half of them. So first up, we got Soul Quest with 99 crafting on the 27th of July. We then have Fire Mana, who got 99 farming on the 26th. Snow Queen 303 with 99 fishing on the 25th. Continuing on the 25th, we have Toragrai with 99 invention. And Toragrai again with 99 strength on the 23rd. And then Eve Shaba with 99 constitution on the 23rd as well.
All right. Then we got two 120s. Fields of Hope got 120 Dungeoneering on July 23rd. And Thieves got 120 Slayer on July 22. That's well done on those.
Yeah.
A Seafarer got 99 Cooking on July 21. And then on July 20, we got Goku SSJ4 getting 99 Invention, and Seabreeze 24 and got 99 Rune Crafting.
Very nice. 99 rune crafting, that is definitely something that people can be interested in these days. Lots of good 99s this week. I remember back in the day when we would read these off, just to continue on the bit of nostalgia trip, and there would be so many cookings and fletchings. Because those were the ones that everyone wanted to get for their first 99s. So, alrighty. I believe it's time for a pick of the week. You got anything for us this week, or shall I go right ahead?
I'm afraid I'm a bit out of the loop after being on vacation for so long. I don't have anything.
All right. Well, I'm going to do a pick of the week that has been used before, and it was used before.
Is that allowed?
Well, I make the rules here, and the last time this was used, it was in 2009. So I think that's allowed.
No, who am I to argue with the showrunner? So
yeah, I mean 2009. How long ago was 2009? Right?
2009. I was like a baby back then.
There you go. So way back when, we were involved with this website called Nation States. And the idea behind this is that you can throw together your country and you can let your citizens prosper, or you can let them die miserably. And you can run it basically however you choose to run it. Everything is 100% fictitious. There are some names on there, like they mix and match names. So, for example, in these issues, you might encounter names such as Barack Clinton. They mix names of American presidents, for an example, of people in there. So let's just say you go through this, you set it up with a survey, and then each day you can choose to have a number of issues brought to your attention, and then these will guide the way your nation develops. So my nation is a really old nation, and it's got, get this, a population of 15 billion. Just shows how long I've been on this website for. But my people are not really that great because their lifespan is only 24.77 years. So, as you can see, I've kind of let my people off to die a bit. But on the other hand, you can have nations with lifespans who are much higher and, in fact, really showcase the trend of being upwards of 80 and 90 years. So there's lots of neat little comparisons and analytics here about what goes on in this nation and in the world. You can take part in, otherworldly affairs on the website. There's upwards of over 700 issues at this point. You can choose to have them brought in and acted on immediately, or you can have a 12-hour cooling off period if you prefer to take a more metered approach. All in all, it's a fun little simulator, and you brought up a very good point earlier, Sirion, that it is really extreme in the amount of in the decisions that you make, and that is one thing as to how they balance out the nation. So
people in my nation live 69 years.
Oh, very good, very good. Like, for example, let's see. Citizens must pay to enjoy Microsoft users' pristine beaches. That was my most recent one. And RPG fans reminisce fondly about when people thought they were evil and dangerous rather than just geeky and socially adept. That's a pretty funny one. And then you have more serious ones like inheritance tax has recently been abolished. And they have all kinds of metrics about what your country is up to. Like, for example, I have 38% spending on defense, 35% on education, and 25% on defense. So
I have about 60 cheeks per square mile.
60 what?
Cheeks.
What does that mean?
That's a measure of accuracy of flash on public display.
Oh, wow!
It's a measure for nudity.
Is that pretty high?
I don't know. It used to be like 150, so it's not very high.
Okay, good.
I don't even know what some of these do.
So, and I mean, let's see, rudeness.
I'm very pacifist. So.
Yeah, your people aren't also very rude either. So that's
they
good.
take after their leader.
So, as you can tell,
per minute.
Yeah, lots of fun stuff on here. Just have a look. Nationstates.net. Our nation name is RuneScape Bits and Bytes. It has a password on it of Shane12088 because once upon a time we actually got invaded and taken over, so we password protect our nation to that. So, anyways, nationstates.net. What have you been up to? Well, you've been on vacation. Do you want to tell people where you went or a little bit about what you did?
Sure. I went to the land of fire and ice. Not to be confused with the Song of Ice and Fire. It's also known as Iceland. I went there for 2.5 weeks. There's one main road around the island. It's called the One, which is very original, but like that just goes around the island. So basically drove down clockwise, starting in Reykjavik, and then just going around. Just looking at stuff, it's a pretty nice island. Like it's more varied than you would expect.
Yeah, is it? You imagine Iceland and you'd think that's a very sparsely populated place. Is it populated that much?
It's like the capital is Reykjavik with 300,000 people, and that's 2/3 of the Iceland population.
Okay, all right.
So we have driven at some point for like, what was it, 1 hour, 2 hours, just through barren nothingness with no gas stations, no parking spots, no civilization. It was, for someone coming from a country like the Netherlands, which is basically one big, like population everywhere, it was very desolated. So that was quite interesting. It was a bit surreal at times. But yeah, it was very interesting. We did like lots of hiking. They're really strict around like not go off the path, so you have to be careful. You can't really do everything you want because they have a lot of flora and fauna protection going on. But yeah, I basically saw most of the island. I really enjoyed it. I got kind of sick of the rotten egg smell, to be honest, because like there's lots of.
That was going to be my next question. Did you see any of the geothermal stuff going on there?
Oh yeah, we went to I think they got geysers in English as well. Like hot water just spraying out of the ground, mud pools just bubbling continuously.
Hot springs?
Yeah, hot springs as well. It's all really weird, but it was a lot of fun just seeing it. I actually already went to Iceland earlier this year, just 2 days to Reykjavik, but like I saw a lot more this time. But yeah, I got a bit tired of the smell at some point because they use geothermal sources to heat their water, which means the hot water has traces of sulfur, which means if you're taking a shower, you're gonna smell like rotten eggs.
Well, it's good for your skin, though.
I mean, the water, like if you just drink cold water from the tap, it's really, really nice water to drink. But like warm water was just, yeah, I was so tired of it. So I was happy to be back home. But yeah, it was good to take a few weeks off. I might be more exhausted right now than before I left, but in a very different way. So
yeah, I can see how that would be the case. But all right. Sounds good. And that's somewhere I'd like to go. And it might make sense to do that one day because Iceland is actually one of the hubs to get to Europe from Western Canada, believe it or not.
Yeah, so what you see, like we went around the entire island, but most of the tourism is centered around Reykjavik because a lot of people, what they do is, so Iceland Air is the main, I know more companies do this, so don't see this as an advertisement, but Iceland Air, for example, allows you to fly from a European airport to Reykjavik and then do a stopover of like 2 days before you fly on to like Canada or America.
Yep.
Or the US, I should say. So a lot of people do that. So you see a lot of tourists just touring around. And most of the highlights of the island are around Reykjavik. They're like a day trip away. And there's lots of tourists around. It's a very expensive country, though, because they have to like import everything.
Right. Much like living in northern Canada would be then, because they
northern
got the
Canada,
same issue.
Northern Alaska as well. Like similar to that, like they have to import everything, which means things are really expensive. It's also a really fun mix of European and American culture as well.
Oh, neat.
Because there was a huge American base until fairly recently, I think, on the island.
Yes.
The American military brought over a lot of like the American stuff, which means you can see like British tea right next to like Lucky Charms, which you won't get in Europe. Like, it's very surreal.
It's
like,
a very strategic position for the Arctic, I can imagine, especially during the Cold War.
Yeah, but it was a lot of fun. Don't try to make any sense of the language. Like it's apparently the oldest still alive European language. So
wow,
it's like I couldn't make any sense of it, and like Dutch is supposed to be fairly close to Scandinavian languages. So yeah. But yeah, I had a good time, but like it didn't involve any RuneScape. I have a policy of not bringing any laptops to
I like
vacations.
that.
I really try to.
I like that. Yeah. Well, as for me, this week I went away for 3 days, but it was effectively 4. Just a little quick trip out to the mountains here out west. Nice little relaxing trip, lots of little day trips, lots of little hikes and whatnot. So that was good fun. I would highly recommend that for anyone passing through Calgary or Edmonton. Just take the few hours trip west to go see the Rocky Mountains here. It's something that you will not regret. Even if you're in the Pacific Northwest in the U.S., you definitely got to come up here and see this at some point. Got some of the views, best views in the world, and it was really busy this year. because it's Canada's 150th birthday. So they made free entry to all the national parks. So really busy, perhaps a little bit more busier than I'd have liked. But hey, that's what you expect for being a world tourist destination and having free entry to the national parks this year. While I was gone, my iPhone 5S of almost 4 years old bit the dust. I don't know. I think it's a battery or some kind of screen issue. So that was interesting to deal with. Though when I got home, I was able to get a recycled iPhone 5S. Or when a family member got an iPhone 7. There's a reason I didn't throw that away. I'm keeping the trusty iPhone 5S until we see what Apple comes out with. I guess in September probably. So, yeah. And, that actually brought up another interesting question. The comparison between digital cameras and maybe even digital SLR cameras and the technology that we have in our pockets these days on smartphones. We have a point-and-shoot Canon camera that's probably about 5 or 6 years old at this point, and even an iPhone 5S just blows the picture quality of that away. So I don't know if this is just something that people like myself who are a little bit older are experiencing. Maybe the younger generation has always used smartphones, but it's really quite amazing to see what smartphones can do for picture quality these days. So I'm sure you experienced that as well on your trip.
I think this might have been probably not the first trip, but this is the first big trip I just left my camera home because I can try taking nice pictures with my normal camera, but phones these days are so sophisticated. You point, you click, and it's going to be a good picture in 90% of the cases. And I mean, I like thinking about making nice pictures, but it takes all the annoying calculation of lighting and that stuff away, and you can just focus on the composition, making a nice photo, and that's it.
Yep. 100% agree with that, and it's going to be really interesting to see what the next generation of camera phones and whatnot look like. So,
do you think it would be like? Do you think there will be some form of, because last year the Google Pixel came out and that was the best smartphone camera ever, and presumably we're going to get a second Pixel this year, and we're going to get a new iPhone this year. Do you think there will be some form of competition going on between the two?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think they're both going to say they have the best smartphone camera again, because evidently the Google Pixel name. Though we were talking about this pre-show, and you said there are some cases where the Pixel you felt lagged behind even an iPhone 5S, but there were also some cases where the Pixel blew it away. So it all depends on the situation.
Yeah, and it was the vibrance of the colors. So I feel that I don't know, in both cases, it's probably you can solve it with post-processing. So it's probably not necessarily the camera, but probably the software behind it that makes the difference. And I mean, you've got to say, Google has the whole machine learning thing behind it. Yep. I don't know how Apple does it, but if it's really machine learning, and Google has been, if Google has been giving it more and more data, we're going to see improvements on that on the next version for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. But this is not a photography podcast or a mobile phone podcast or a machine learning podcast.
You should do a photography special.
I could, but I don't take many pictures. So, but anyways, thank you for joining us, everyone. Thank you, Sirion, for stepping in for this week. I knew we'd have a little bit of a subdued week this week, but hey, getting ready to move into August, and new set of co-hosts for August joining us next week. So with that being said, thank you, Sirion, once again, and thank you to the listeners out there for sharing your time with us, and we'll see you back next week.
See you around.